All right, this kind of came out of nowhere, and it's not an earth-shattering move in terms of just the grand structure of the Texans right now, but I think we can read into this a little bit. Is the Texans restructure Tytus Howard's contract? I first saw it from Texans Cap. Per source, Houston completed a max restructure with Titus Howard creating $11.464 million in cap space. What the hell's a max? What's a max restructure? I should know that. Aaron Wilson says that they lowered his base salary to $1.17 million, signing bonus conversion of $14.3 million. So Titus will get a $14.330 million signing bonus, which is always nice from the player's perspective. Added avoidable year. The new cap figure is $11.58 million, down from $23.05 million. So they clear $11 million or so in cap space. And a couple things. First, just to clarify things, because I know sometimes I saw a couple of people say, oh, Titus, what a saint, taking one for the team. This is really good for the player from an individual standpoint. You get the same amount of money, but you get a signing bonus up front. It pushes a bunch of it off into the future. What it also does is it puts more pressure on the team to renegotiate your deal perhaps next year, because your dead money next year is going to be greater than if you played this year. So it's a vote of confidence for Titus Howard. I think in terms of what the team perhaps thinks of him, he's definitely going to be here this year with this restructure. This isn't something that you do to get a guy ready to trade or anything like that. I wouldn't think. I would be surprised if that was the reasoning for it. And I wonder, my first thought was, okay, this means he's going to be the tackle. He's going to be one of the two tackles. It'll be him and Blake Fisher. This could also be something where you say, hey, we know that guards don't make as much money as tackles, and we understand your concerns about playing guard and getting labeled as a guard because your career earnings aren't going to be as much. So maybe we massage it. There could be multiple reasons for this. I know the immediate thought is also, oh, crap, Nicky's clearing up space. Remember last year, they cleared up a bunch of space a few days before they ended up trading for Stephon Diggs. Texans Cap, with his damn big brain of his, has to throw cold water on it. He says, after running some numbers, my opinion would be that this move was made for operating room in the season. Damn it. Unless there's another move to create more space. So maybe there's something coming. I don't think this would be specifically to make room for Danielle Hunter, because if you redo Danielle Hunter's deal, that's another move that would also probably clear up some space this year if they extended his contracts by a year or two. So it could be. It could be the first volley in whittling away the cap a little bit to clear some space. But it is probably just, you need anywhere between $10 and $20 million to sign your draft picks. This could be just room to maneuver and comfort level for a trade that comes in. But right now I'd lean towards don't read into too much this being a definite indication that they're about to make some aggressive move in free agency or anything. As far as him playing tackle or guard, I think a lot of that is still open, depending on how Titus feels about it, how Nick Caley feels about it with his input so far. But if you look at the tackles that are available in the draft, a lot of the guys like Calvin Banks and others that are being projected to the Texans are guys where a lot of NFL scouts aren't sure if this guy's a tackle or if this guy is a guard. And whether it's by design and the Texans want it that way, or maybe just because that's the lot that they have available to them this year, I think if they do draft a guy who was a tackle in college, he might be looked at as, hey, we're going to start this guy off as a guard, see how it goes, see how Blake Fisher projects or develops. Somewhere along the way, they have to, in my mind, bring in another veteran offensive tackle to just, for one, have a swing tackle that you feel good about. Two, if Blake Fisher doesn't develop, it was really nice having George Fant a couple years ago. Somebody like that you can at least trust to be in there. Right now, if you look at how Nick has attacked the offseason, with the guards, he signed a couple guys who can start, and they're going to compete. But Laken Tomlinson and Ed Ingram are guys that, yeah, you can start with them. You can have a good offensive line with them in the lineup, but they're not guys that are going to be bell cows or something like that. If you draft a guard and he's ready to play immediately, then probably one of those guys goes by the wayside. If you draft a tackle and he can play immediately, then maybe that opens up to Titus Howard moving inside. There's a lot of moving parts right now, so I don't want to read too much into it. My preferred reading into it would be that this is to clear room for a lot of people. I am getting annoyed with current mock drafts because ever since the trade of Laremy Tunsil, all these mock drafts have completely pivoted and turned into nothing but offensive tackles going to the Texans. Calvin Banks I've been looking at a little bit lately. I really like the way he plays. I think he's got a lot of potential. I don't know if he has the fluidity that you look at a guy in the first round and think, okay, this could be a first round guy. So there's going to be some latitude. There's going to be a lot of shuffling around. I know Landry Locker did a really good job of basically turning versatility into a dirty word from the Bill O'Brien era, because Bill O'Brien's version of versatility is, let's find a guy who can do multiple things poorly. And I did not enjoy that level of versatility. It was like having a Swiss Army knife to perform a tracheotomy. Yeah, you can do it, but ideally you prefer a scalpel. If they can identify guys who are genuinely versatile, then yeah, let's go for it. I think that Titus Howard has that ability to play inside. I think Blake Fisher is purely an offensive tackle. I think a guy like Josh Simmons, who might get drafted, would be purely an offensive tackle. So they can go multiple ways with this. Somebody asked, am I doing a Derek Stingley press reaction? I will, once I get the video sent to me. I think you can watch the whole press conference on KHOU11's website. So I'm going to check that out. I have to go help my wife out with a ratchet strap, which in which case I will pretend to be way more competent with ratchet straps than I actually am. I've watched YouTube videos on them, and I'm still not 100%. I'm not as confident in ratchet straps as I am. Oh no, I would say my confidence in ratchet straps is about the same as Nick Caley right now. There's promise and there's something there, but I just don't know exactly what to feel. Titus Howard, let's get down to it. I meant to talk about this earlier. When it comes to Titus Howard, the football player, I do think that he was overcompensated. I thought the contract was a little bit lucrative and premature when they gave him that contract. I don't think he's lived up to it. And yet, I do think also that a lot of people's perception of Titus and some of the negativity about him is more about what it's been like previous years when he had to play guard, and it was a bad fit, and I think he was kind of reluctant about it. I think as a tackle, he's been just fine as an offensive tackle. I would have preferred that. I don't know whether there was injuries or body weight or what early this season. He wasn't moving as fluidly as I think he's capable of. But as an offensive tackle, I can feel good about an offensive line that has him at right tackle. Left tackle will be a little bit more interesting. Guard, if he embraces it, I'm cool with it to see how he operates under Nick Caley. But I'm happy to have him back. I think if they can. If Nick Caley, and so much of this hinges on Nick Caley and Cole Popovich and whether they can actually coach or not in their respective roles. Cole Popovich, the new offensive line coach, who was the assistant offensive line coach last year, then they can get a lot more out of, even if they had the exact same guys playing, with some clarity of scheme, with fewer mental errors, with a better job in pass protection, and maybe getting C.J. Stroud involved more as a veteran quarterback directing the show with pass protection. There can be a lot of improvements to be had, even without an upgrade in talent. The way I described it this morning, when people get pessimistic about the fact that you lose Laremy Tunsil, how are you actually going to get better as an offensive line? This is, if you think about, okay, there's 5 offensive linemen, and you've got the run game, you've got the pass game. So let's talk about like 10 different variables there. In those 10 variables, you had one guy who was passable in Tytus Howard. I would say in both the run and pass protection side of things. You had Laremy Tunsil, who was a good pass protector and not much as a run blocker. So yeah, like 3 out of 10 variables there. I would much prefer having 4 guys who are competent, maybe one guy who's a headache that you got to disguise, but at least then you've got 8 passable variables on the offensive line. That's how you get better, and that hinges on Nick Caley. Nick Caley, who is involved in the nuts and bolts of designing pass protection, coaching players who are involved in pass protection and the run game. I just feel better about his potential for that than I do for Bobby Slowick, who is a little bit of a whiteboard warrior. This contract structure is going to help so much. It does, and it doesn't have to come with a big splash. It gives you elbow room. It gives you operating room. It gives you a feeling like, okay, we could make a move here, maybe restructure somebody else. We know with Nick, there is a trade out there somewhere. There's gonna be a trade. Does it involve offensive linemen? I don't know. Nick might not be aware or even, that somebody is going to become available. But after the draft, especially depending on what the Texans do, that's when things loosen up again a little bit. Some team drafts an offensive tackle high, and they start looking at their roster and thinking, okay, we've got a veteran here who's expendable, or a guard, whatever it might be. I think that's very much in the works, and it's a lot easier to do now with here. I think I didn't put it up. Here's the current cap situation: $20.512 million under the top 51 rules. Doesn't include Shaq Mason, because Shaq Mason's contract savings, the 8.4 of it doesn't kick in until after June 1st. So, draft class hold of about $2.8 million. I was wildly inaccurate on my amount that it takes to sign a draft class early. That's why you go to follow Texans Cap on Twitter, subscribe to his Reddit, and do all that. Yeah. Titus is decent in the run game. That's I think that Titus is fine. He's fine as an NFL player. I think there's still more upside in him, and maybe that comes if Nick Caley ends up being a really good offensive coordinator, and we'll see. And Kenneth, I think he probably joined midway through. This, if you extend Hunter, it probably would actually save you some money on this year's cap, depending on how they did it. So I don't think this is specifically tied to Danielle Hunter. It could be part of a larger picture that also involves Danielle Hunter. If we see another move soon to clear up more cap space, that's when I think you should get excited about a potential free agent signing or a potential trade. The kind of the same way we saw last year, where the Texans cleared up a bunch of space and then all of a sudden they traded for Diggs. So I'm gonna hold my water for right now and not get too overly excited about a potential move. But it would be nice. I'm not gonna lie to you. I got to go help with that ratchet strap. Please like, subscribe, tell a friend. Ignore any inaccuracies I had when it comes to the cap or anything else like that. I implore you, go follow Texans Cap. He knows what the hell he's talking about.